Hey, this is Dan from Music Explorer. We're here today with drummer Ron Wikso. Ron got a big jump start in his career after auditioning for Cher's band in 1989. And in 1992, he joined the band The Storm, featuring vocalist Gregg Rolie of Santana, and recorded several albums together. Ron was also a foreigner from 1995 to 1998. And Ron has played and recorded with many other artists and has his own recording studio producing custom drum tracks. Hey Ron, how you doing today?
I'm doing just fine. How are you doing?
Oh, great. You've got an interesting career. How did you start wanting to play drums, and who were your influences?
I started playing drums when I was 7. I wound up taking lessons with the elementary school music teacher, but he taught me enough to like how to hold the sticks. And there was another guy in the school district who I wound up taking private lessons with through high school. But then he got me interested in lots of different styles of music, stuff like, Mahavishnu Orchestra and Chick Corea and, the Don Ellis Big Band and Buddy Rich and, all these different jazz side of things. So I kind of was interested in all of it,
So then you went on to Berklee College.
I went to Berklee that fall after graduating high school.
I mean, after Berklee, you were playing on cruise ships for a while?
Yeah, I wound up playing on some cruise ships. Eventually after a couple of years of that, I wound up moving to LA in, I think it was 1982.
What made you want to go to LA?
My standard line for that was, it was easier to be a starving musician without a coat.
So what was your first major recording?
I guess it depends on how you define major. But, my first big touring gigs were with Cher. I did some other minor things before that, but...
Well, that was in 1989, right?
That was in 89, I joined her band, yeah. And then that turned into, we did a CBS TV show and some other TV shows. And, one of the tracks from the CBS show was used on one of her greatest hits albums and stuff like that. So I guess that would be considered my first major one.
And you were with Cher, what, 3 years, I think?
I was with her for 2 years. And then in 1991, she was I heard through the grapevine that she was gonna have get a whole new band. So I thought I was out of the band. Dave Amato is a good friend of mine, and he and I were in Cher's band together, and he's been with REO Speedwagon now for many years. He happened to be down where she was having these auditions, was there, and he saw her and all the people from Cher's thing, and he talked to her and he said, "What are you doing? Why are you getting a whole new band? What's wrong with the guys you've had for the last couple of years?" And so after he said that to her office called me, I guess the next day, and it was like a Friday or something like that. And they called up and said, "Cher wants to know if you'll come down." And I was like, "Come down and what?" And they didn't want to say it. I said, "Do you want me to audition?" And they were like, "Well, yeah." And I said, "Tell her to watch the CBS TV show we just did." I mean, what do you, she knows how I play. She knows what I look like. And what, so anyway.
Kind of an insult, right?
I thought it was, Dave and I used to talk all the time, like multiple times a day. And so by that time he was doing it too. He was like playing in the auditions and everything and helping her with all this stuff. And I kept saying, no. So anyway, finally he convinced me to do it. I knew the way she did her auditions. She would have somebody take a picture, like with a Polaroid at that time, and then fill out some information or whatever. When I went to the audition, I didn't, by this point I thought, well, I probably don't have this gig anymore anyway. I'm just gonna, So I brought an 8x10 of myself. She had this table where she sat with all of her entourage, with their sunglasses, and I walked up to the table and I took the 8x10 and I said, "Here, just in case you forgot what I looked like." So and then I just turned around and walked away and then went and sat down to play and we played, and I played like I was pissed. And so Dave was there playing and he's like smiling, and she's like this in her chair, and all of a sudden she starts like sitting up, and then she comes and she sings with the band, right, which she hadn't been doing. And then, a few minutes later, I was told that, okay, you're back in the band. Anyway, and then I was in the band. It was 91. Then the next winter, we were getting ready to go to Europe. we were in rehearsals, and that was when I got the call about joining the Storm. So then I wound up turning it around, and I actually wound up quitting the band during rehearsals, and they had to find somebody else. And she came up to me during one of the rehearsals after she found out I was leaving, and she goes, "Traitor." And I was like, hey, you know, I got an opportunity.
She was joking, right?
Yeah, she was joking around. Because then just a few months later, so I left the band, and they actually wound up getting Brian Hitt, which was REO's drummer, because Dave was still in her band. Dave was doing both gigs at the same time, REO and Cher. Whenever REO wasn't working, he would come and play with Cher. And so Brian wound up doing it when they were in Europe, and I was on the road with the Storm. We were opening for Bryan Adams for several months, and I got a call from her manager and said, "Cher wants to know if you can do these gigs," and blah, blah. So I wound up going back and doing the same thing that Dave was doing. So I would play with her when the Storm didn't have gigs, and then go back with the Storm. So
Yeah.
I guess in a way I was still on the call list anyway for a few years later, even though we didn't do anything. And then they did call me about possibly doing the stuff for Believe, and then it was kind of like another "do you want to audition" type thing, and I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Did she want to do audition again?
Yeah, I guess so. I just was like, enough. It's already on my resume. The first gigs we started doing was in 2001, and we did it for at least, I don't know, 17 or 18 years or something like that. And in the course of that, we did a couple other records. We did a live record called Rain Dance, which we did at Sturgis, and then the most recent thing, he did a record called Sonic Ranch that I played on all but one song. Mike Shreve played on the other one.
So I guess let's move on to what you got, your recording studio. When did you start that? What were your goals behind that?
The hardest thing for songwriters and people to do without having to rent a studio and, get a drummer to schlep their stuff down to the studio is drums. You can record guitars and keyboards and all that stuff pretty easily, whatever. Anyway, so I started doing more and more of that. People would just, find my website or whatever. And there weren't that many people doing that at that time. But the main thing that I've been doing for our, that's ours is with my girlfriend, Marcy. Marcy Requist is her name. And we made a record called Covers of Comfort, which is unlike any of the other stuff that I've done as far as like the rock bands and all that. It's a sort of the idea behind it was that everybody goes through rough things at various points in their life. If you live long enough, you always have some storm to navigate in your life. So when we first started doing stuff, I was just kind of helping her. She had some songs that she had written, and I was trying to help her get those together. And we just stumbled on this idea of doing music that, since she thought it was comforting for her in various situations, we thought it might be good for other people. And so we made this record. It's all cover tunes. Some are more well known than others. Others, some of them are a little bit obscure. But it's just kind of soothing type, music that's meant to be of comfort for people. And so we did that, and now we're doing some other stuff. But it's really fun and versatile, and we have some amazing musicians on it.